If you've seen that article from The Independent called A Man's View of Quiet Quitting a Marriage, you already know why so many women sent it to me. The headline alone tells the whole story, right? A man calling his wife an emotional desert, like she just shut down one day for no particular reason. And men say this all the time, right? Women get painted as cold and distant, uninterested, and the entire emotional history that pushed them there is just erased, right? Context? Who needs it? What's interesting is that he writes the whole thing like it's just this sad situation that they drifted into together. But when you actually read his words, you're going to see a very different pattern. Read the article. You see a woman who has literally been emotionally worn down. You can even see it through his words. You see a man that missed every sign of that. And you see a relationship that didn't quietly fall apart. It cracked one ignored moment at a time. I'm Lisa Sonni. I'm a certified relationship coach, a trauma bond expert, a domestic abuse survivor, and a woman who spent years begging a man to meet me halfway. I make videos like this because I didn't grow up hearing the truth about emotional neglect, and I don't want other women thinking that her exhaustion means that something's wrong with her. So hit subscribe if these conversations feel like the ones that you were never allowed to have. All right, so let's walk through his story, right? Because it's not new at all. They met, they fell in love, they traveled, they had fun. And of course it was fun. Life was easy then. But he blows past the first big red flag without even knowing it, right? Just right past him. They struggled to conceive, sex felt mechanical, they felt disconnected, and he says they just didn't talk about it. He writes that like it's neutral, but that's the beginning of emotional avoidance. That's the moment that you're supposed to turn toward each other. He turned away, and later he's confused. You know, that lack of emotional closeness, it never seemed to come back. Pro tip, guys, it doesn't come back through avoidance or magic. Then they have their first baby. He says that he was shocked by how hard it was. I will not pretend that that did not quite literally make me laugh out loud. Meanwhile, she's doing the majority of childcare. This is where that whole mental load thing starts to show up, right? Women don't even have the option to be shocked. Who has time for that? We have to adapt immediately because the baby needs you, right? So when she goes back to work, she wants financial independence, which makes sense. He takes that personally, like it's a sign that she's preparing to leave him. Maybe she's a grown woman who's learned what happens when moms have no financial safety. But that's how men frame women's self-protection, as a threat. They seem to want us to need them as opposed to want us to want them. Now, then their kids get diagnosed with ASD, autism, okay? This is actually where everything kind of shifts. Parenting neurodivergent kids is a constant emotional marathon. Parenting is hard on its own. Now, I know this from experience. It's not just more work. It's a different kind of work. She's handling the daily routines, sensory needs, sleep issues, meltdowns, school calls, therapy appointments, planning, soothing, advocating. Like, are you tired just hearing the list? She's doing all of this while she's working. He says she focused on the kids and the house, and that he says it like it explains her distance, right? But what he's describing is Emma Clit's entire point in You Should Have Asked, her viral mental load comic that was kind of everywhere. Women become the managers of the entire household. And it's not because they want control. That's nonsense. Men push that all the time. She just wants things done her way, right? If they don't do it, nothing gets done. That's the point. The load isn't shared. It's just swallowed by women. Then he keeps talking about tallykeeping, and this part pisses me off. That part made every woman reading nod their head, I bet. Men think that tallykeeping is petty. Women know that tallykeeping means I've already tried everything to get you to hear me and nothing changed. The reality is most women are reciprocal and we don't keep tally until there's a ridiculous imbalance. And then it becomes, you're just keeping score. We have to. Tallykeeping, it's survival and it's proof. And I know it gets framed as petty, right? And yes, it can be. But again, the majority of women, it's not their default. They start doing it unconsciously when they give way more than they get. It's a woman saying, look how much I'm doing. Look how much you don't see. Matthew Frey learned this the hard way in his viral essay, She Divorced Me Because I Left Dishes by the Sink. I remember reading that like forever ago. Have you read it? You've got to read it. The dishes weren't the problem. The dishes were a symbol of a much bigger problem. She carried the invisible work of the relationship, And he only noticed when she left. This man is just living that same story. He just hasn't figured it out yet. The author, Matthew Frey, his article was about how he figured that out. So then this author, he moves into intimacy, right? He says he tried to initiate and she just wasn't interested. And I get that feeling, right? Rejection hurts. But he doesn't actually need to see it as rejection. Women don't lose their desire because they're like bored or they just want to punish someone. I'm actually desperately sick of the narrative that all women use sex to punish. It's crap. Desire dries up when you're burned out, when you're overstimulated, right? She's never off duty, and all of this emotional labor outweighs what she gets in return. Gemma Hartley wrote about this in her article, Women Are Not Nags, We're Just Fed Up. Perfect title. Women stop talking, stop asking. They don't try to connect when they're worn down from carrying the work that should be handled by the two grown adults living in the house. She's collapsed. She's not trying to be cold, but he frames everything as mutual quitting. That's interesting too, right? My opinion, it's not mutual. She didn't quit. She got depleted. She got overwhelmed. I would pay money to hear her version of what actually happened. She got emotionally starved, I bet. Her body shut down long before she did. Meanwhile, he's lonely and disappointed that she isn't how she used to be. Those are just two different worlds, right? And the person who collapses emotionally is not generally the person who had room to even feel lonely. And okay, men hate this. They hate this, but it needs to be said. Studies show that women are reactive and reciprocal in their relationships. I've made plenty of videos on that topic, citing sources. Google is free. Look it up. But then he says something, a lot of women spot it instantly, right? He's emotionally close to a colleague. Gasp. We're all shocked, right? Nothing has happened, but he's open to it. And this is where the toxic pattern becomes so clear. Men don't repair at home. They look elsewhere for connection. They don't talk to their partner about their loneliness. They just find someone who doesn't see the mess. And before you get all whatever with me, not all men. We're talking about abusive and toxic men, of which I put this author in that category. Men see themselves as the one who's deprived, right? Not the one who contributed to the emotional breakdown in the home. It's something that just happened to him, right? So he describes their routine now. Separate rooms, separate meals, barely talking. But here's the thing. Women tend not to go quiet first, right? How are we both the ones going quiet first and the nag? Make that make sense, right? Women go quiet last. Women talk until their voice is ignored. Then they give up. Women ask until asking becomes painful and frustrating. Women try until trying is a friggin' humiliation ritual. Silence is not the beginning of the end. Silence is the end of a very long road for women. And here's where I want to be even more direct. What he's describing, it's not just a sad marriage. And that's kind of how he frames it, right? This is how toxic dynamics grow in slow motion. Because not all abuse is loud. Not all abuse is yelling and threats. Some of it is emotional neglect. Some of it is a woman slowly losing her sense of self while carrying the entire weight of her whole friggin' family. Some of it is a partner who centers his own loneliness, but he never notices her disappearing in their marriage. Some of it is a relationship that runs on her labor and his expectations, right? When one person is just allowed to kind of avoid any emotional work and the other person is forced to carry everything, that imbalance isn't neutral. It breaks you. It chips away at the same sort of things in you that obvious abuse does, like quietly, day by day, and then there's nothing left. But that's what emotional abandonment looks like. This is what unfair labor looks like. This is just the result. This is what long-term relational burnout looks like. This is the dirt that abusive relationships grow from. Learned helplessness, that nervous system shutdown, that sort of sense that like nothing you do is going to change anything. That's what that woman's living in. That's why she shut down. And he doesn't even see it. In fact, he had the audacity to write an article about it. If you see yourself in her, that makes sense to me because a lot of women do. And you're not losing your spark because you're cold, right? You're burnt out because you've been expected to hold an entire relationship together by yourself. That's toxic. And it's actually draining as hell. So yeah, it sits in the same emotional kind of territory as women in abusive relationships really end up in. Collapse is collapse, no matter how polite the relationship looks from the outside. This is exactly why I coach women through rebuilding their sense of self after all these years of having some man deplete you emotionally. If you're at the point where you're numb or quiet or just running on fumes and you want to rebuild who you are underneath all of that pressure, you can book a private session with me or even join one of my group coaching programs. The links are in the description. Comment your thoughts. I want to hear what your relationships are like, what your marriage is like. Do you see yourself in this article? And don't forget to hit subscribe because women deserve a place where the truth finally gets told in plain language.